We know what's going on. We're experiencing it firsthand, we're witnessing it firsthand, and we need to be listened to, and we need those in power to really know that we're not just out of touch children who want to get out of school and just want something to whine about, because we are scared for our futures, and so much of our futures have already been impacted, and we are crying for a reason. I have been to the Blue Mountains a lot throughout my entire childhood, and I just really have a strong connection there. Having that connections wither away when it's been destroyed by the climate crisis through the bushfires, it's a really weird experience, and I feel like a part of me and my life as a child is sort of taken away as the climate crisis has destroyed part of what has formed me as a person. I feel really driven by that loss and that chaos that has occurred.
What do we want? Hard answer! When do we want it? Now!
You know what? I'll just make it good colours. So I'm just working at the moment on the map for the Marshall briefing.
I'm sorry. Are you?
I'm a Marshall captain, not a
Did you
graphic
drop your
designer.
iPad in like a muddy puddle? Why is everything like dark?
So tonight we're planning the Marshall briefing for the March 25 climate strike. It was going to be in the Domain, but we've decided to switch to Kirribilli House to take the climate strike to Scott Morrison so he can't ignore us.
I'm really excited to take the fight directly to Scott Morrison. I think that it's strategic and it has a real potential to be super impactful.
Changing venues so close to the actual event is quite a big change, so we've had to put in all new paperwork, send out new comms to the public.
Yeah, when we first kind of internally announced that we wanted to move it, there was a fair amount of like confusion and questions, and like working through that was like quite challenging. And also apologise like for the last minute change in venue. We know that it's caused a lot of confusion and some inconvenience for various people and made it a bit more difficult. So all of that kind of together just means that I've had a pretty crazy week or two. I went to my first strike in 2018, like it was the very first one that happened in Sydney in the end of the year. I don't even remember the date. I think I was in year 10, I was like 16 years old. I'd never been to a strike or a rally or protest, anything like that before, like I had not been involved. I just remember being there and I just felt like this huge sense of empowerment. And that was kind of when I knew I was like, this there's something here and I want to be a part of it more.
In the September 20 strike in 2019, where in Sydney there were like 80,000 strikers, I think over 100 students at my school attended, and it really just went to show how involved and aware my school community is.
So, don't dig it! What do we want? Climate action! When do we want it? Now!
And I think it's also really motivated me to bring about more action and initiatives within my school.
Yeah, I was like, I want to be a part of this. I want to keep doing this and actually like lead on this kind of stuff. And from there just started organizing, and that was the summer, that was Black Summer. That was when all of the horrible bushfires were, and that was an incredible moment of momentum when we were just organizing rally after strike, after protest, after action, like over and over again for that entire summer, and that was incredibly motivating. And that experience, like being right at the start of when I first started organising, I think also has shaped who I am as an activist as well.
Before I joined School Strike for Climate and this general social and climate movement, I didn't really have a sense of purpose or an identity, and I think joining this movement and being around so many like-minded people, I really grasped a better sense of who I am and what my purpose is, and I've also just made so many great connections with other youth and other people around the world
Honestly, like all of my closest friends, like I've made through doing this activism, because like I found they're just like people who care about the same things as me to the same degree as I do as well. Like I just get along better with other people who also care.
It's both very fun, but it's also very tiring.
I've got exams coming up next week, so it's not ideal.
I'm organising it in year 12, so I'm doing exams before event management and all these other things.
I definitely have phone calls and text message conversations at school when I'm kind of like at recess at lunch, working out logistics and police work and stuff, which is definitely stressful because that's meant to be a bit of a break, but it's also a bit of adrenaline, I guess, because organising is quite fun.
And I really think just being involved in such a space that calls for action and accountability from those in power really brings out all the other things that need to be addressed and accounted for within our world.
When I started, it was kind of fighting for my future, but now that I've been more involved, I've realised the effect that climate change is having on First Nations communities and people of colour across the globe.
How exploitation of our lands plays into First Nations justice.
Like if we can actually be guided by people who are affected by issues and have really, really strong allies, putting resources and time into uplifting those voices and finding solutions, then I think is something that actually could create a world where things are at least better.
If you think we're scared, well, you don't know us. We were raised to take out garbage, born to a world that's sick and tired. I felt the same till I got inspired.
So I'm emceeing the strike. I'm feeling nervous, but I'm also really excited. I'm confident that by raising voices of those who need to be heard, we will have a successful strike.
Are rising!
The start of the night.
Are rising!
We organize as we carry the earth.
Scott Morrison, you cannot ignore us any longer. The climate crisis is at our doorstep, so now we are at your doorstep.
The water came in my house nearly 2 meters high. Climate change is happening, and climate disasters are a consequence of climate change, and we want action now to make sure that these events do not continue to ruin lives like it has mine. Thank you.
The first step towards climate justice is land rights and the protections of Mother Earth.
Show me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. First Nations people whose land continues to be destroyed. Not okay for us to be ignored as our grandma's house was burnt right up to her backyard. 3 years ago we were on fire and nothing has changed. What do we want? Climate justice! What do we want? Now! What do we want? Climate justice! What do we want?
It's an amazing thing to be part of such an empowered collective.
But I have family who live in Indonesia who have time and time again for years been affected by the climate crisis.
The climate crisis is a very terrifying prospect. We're witnessing it firsthand right now with the floods happening in Queensland and New South Wales, and it can be a very overwhelming thing to even just think about and to witness happening. And I feel like so much of my life I've sort of feared what the climate crisis is going to bring to those I love, and sometimes that does really impact my mental health and my view of the world. But on the other hand, I also think being involved in this movement with thousands of other youth, it's just really empowering, and it really goes to show how powerful youth are and how much impact we do have and we can have. And yeah, it just really inspires me, and yeah, it just allows me to know that there's hope in our world.